Woman literally calls herself the step monster-in-law, living up to it heavily. This is a 6-part series of the same story, of which you are listening to part 1 of 6. Let's get started.
Okay, so slightest background story. My husband is an amazing man. I love to pieces and would do anything for this big lug nut. Both his mom and dad were the typical Mormon followers who were amazing to me from the start. Unfortunately for us, Mom passed away on deck 23 of 2014. Skip forward to about a year. Please don't send hate about my dad. He was in grief and told us all the time how he would never let this woman in his home given a chance again. My dad found a supposed friend of the family who we all agreed seemed very nice at first. Few red flags from the start in my and my husband's opinion, currently in the middle of divorcing another man who had custody of 3 of their children. This divorce was found out to be filed by the husband because she abused him and their children and was a big abuser of drugs. It was clear from first meeting her that she had some severe issues mentally. My husband and I naturally got strange vibes from this woman. We ignored our signs, trying to be friendly because we are good people and wanted to hear her out. From the start, she continued to force things into my dad's head, like, "We are never getting married unless you buy me a dog first. I will never take the place of your mother, wife. If this is going to work between us, we can't tell the church about our sins." Things we naturally brushed off because it seemed like she was playing around. No, in the time we knew her, she forced my dad to get a golden retriever pup, which she got rid of because she didn't want to take care of it because I can't handle the smell of dog poop. "It makes me vomit," a comment frequently used with her. Because my dad worked 12+ hours to keep the roof over their head, and my brother-in-law did not want to care for the dog, even going so far as to tell her he refused to take care of a dog he never wanted or got. Acceptable as well when you know that he works night shift in a town a half-hour away. After getting rid of this sweet dog, because she would never be able to care for her, Monster then proceeded to force my father to get 2 smaller dogs that, again, no one would care for. Later she eventually bred these dogs claiming that they would raise money for charity, but scammed people's money and kept it all for herself. Yeah, hatred cannot express how I felt about her. She also smoked weed, which my husband and I never cared about, but made it very clear to her and my father that I could not be around it. I am highly allergic to tobacco and weed. However, the longer she stayed, the more it became an issue for her. The monster would proceed to do all of the following regularly: call and leave threats on my phone and my husband's phones, yell and shout, starting arguments with no rhyme or reason, and even forced my dad to stay away from family functions because your mother and sister will force us to get a divorce. Please note this is summarized. At one point, when we found out that I was pregnant with my first daughter, we planned the baby shower to be on my mother's birthday because it happened to fall perfectly on Saturday. Because she couldn't make it to the event, she said she would instead host a small party for anyone who couldn't make it. Refused to invite anyone on my side of the family or my husband's mother's side of the family. Refused to invite anyone male because it was inappropriate despite my discussion about how I don't want it segregated because I want family to be there, not just the women. Brutally harassed my mother over FB Messenger, claiming that we were splitting up the family by having our baby shower, which I remind you was first and planned by both my husband and I to celebrate my mother's life through a new baby. Then proceeded to get angry and yell at me when a few men came to the party outside my husband and father-in-law. Get upset that my mother never came to her baby shower after harassing and making horrible accusations towards her all over social media. Right before my fabulous firstborn was here, she tried to ask me if she could be in the room with me while she was being born. I politely declined, after all the terrible things she had done up to that point, and frankly did not want her there because of her highly agonizing temper, which I knew would only make things worse. I only wanted my mother and husband there for the birth. She had a massive blowout about the way we wanted people to come in. Got angry because they waited for so long. Then proceeded to berate my father-in-law every chance she got. After the fact, we had my daughter, and she was growing strange rashes all over only when we were at their house. While bringing this up to Monster, she tried to turn it into a pity party. Few things to note here. We told her we did not feel comfortable with her watching our daughter without someone else there. She had been claiming since the beginning of the year she could drop dead any day because of medical issues, and neither of us wanted our newborn alone with her should that happen. Be the 2 dogs I told you about before. She still never cleaned up after them, and we usually found their feces all over their kennel, with them covered in pee each time we were over there. See, my daughter was having allergic reactions, and we made it clear that she was not to go over there without one of us present to see what the issue was that was causing it. This woman was notorious for being a liar, as proven on the day before my wedding when she tried to give weed to minors and told them they could have it as long as they don't tell the adults. All of these things she completely disregarded and tried to turn back on us, saying it was because I wouldn't admit that I never liked that she smoked weed. I remind you, I don't care what she did, but I was highly allergic to the point that I would have to go to the hospital on 2 occasions after leaving their house because it lingered inside. However, I love my father and wanted to see him because he was important to me. I told her in my final text that if she wanted to be a part of my daughter's life, she can say to me a time and place that was not their house, and I would happily bring her. Instead, Monster noted this: I cannot bond with something being dangled over my head like a carrot on a stick. My husband was furious, to the point he almost told her and our father they were dropped from our lives, but thankfully I convinced him to keep Dad in the loop. After this incident, she continued to steal my father's phone to text threatening messages to me, my husband, our aunt, and many other people my father knew. Trashed my husband and I and our family all over Facebook. Continued to try and make arrangements for my daughter to be over there when we told her explicitly we would never do that. Even went as far as to claim over social media that I was sexually attracted to my father, his sister was attracted to him, his mother was sexually attracted to him, and many of my father's female friends were attracted to him. We threatened a restraining order if she didn't stop messaging us, blocked all of her social media accounts, and refused all forms of contact. During the divorce, present, falsely sent my father to jail, lying about him abusing her. BTW, she asked him for sexual favors afterward because she was longing. Despite being abused by him, lied to my father about how he was supposed to care for her. When my father called the therapist and found out what she said was a lie, she then called him and shouted and threatened him for calling her therapist to find out the truth. Has spread lies and slander about my entire family, saying they are devil worshippers and evil, sexual molesters, etc. Threw my father's previous wedding album down a 250 feet well out of jealousy for a dead woman. Stole the tricycle that he bought for our daughter and then threw it in the ditch beside their house. Stole $16,000+ from him. Stole all of the cookware that my mother and father bought together during their marriage. Lied to all her friends and family, claiming he was in the wrong. One such lie was to a now good friend of ours, who she told that Dad was cheating on her with his ex-wife. Said friend was never told that wife had been dead for 4+ years at that point. Stalking my side of the family. Tried to lie about the father of my children, claiming I am a whore by hearing a story about my brother and lying to everyone saying that I was sleeping around. I have only ever slept with one man. All 3 look identical to him, and he couldn't deny them if he tried. Tried to give herself skepties after cutting something open on her leg and refused to go to the doctor unless my father drove her to the hospital. And several horrible things that I have tried to block out. My now 3 daughters are living a wholesome life without her in our lives, and my father has never felt happier than he can finally see his family without his wife threatening him or forcing him to stay home at all times. So, yeah, how's that for a monster?
That is it for the story today. From next part on, we will get into details as to how things turned out. This story is going to get interesting and thrilling with each part, so don't miss out on the twists and turns in each of these parts. See you in the next part 2 tomorrow. Stay safe and stay blessed.